we want those small bite-sized pieces because that's going to fit around what an advisor needs. It also means that we can start utilising this podcast even more than what we have done, which is really exciting, making it that bite-sized kind of learning TikTok style without being on TikTok and losing hours of our lives to
no
that.
Dancing.
No dancing. Yeah, there will be no dancing from me on this podcast.
Hello, Happy New Year, and welcome back to the L&G Just Covered podcast, where we talk to advisors and key stakeholders in the industry in the intermediary space.
And I think we need to bear that in mind with a lot of our advisors that we talk to is they have to continuously be learning because things are changing all the time. And like you said, it doesn't have to be grief through losing someone. Things like divorce or, leaving a job. They are really big life moments that we really try and take into account when we're talking to advisors.
And I'm so excited at the moment. We've got some great new things coming for 2026, and we've got a review that we're going to talk about 2025 today. But one thing that's absolutely amazing is we've got a brand new podcast host. Georgia, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm really good, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, well, thanks so much for having you. We've been working together for a while now, haven't we?
Yeah.
And it's so enjoyable. As we know, we work really closely on a day-to-day basis. How are you feeling about coming in to help us with regards to the L&G podcast and into 2026?
I am so excited. I mean, you can't get rid of me at the end of the day, so that's the main thing. I've always loved it already, what's been filmed, and just fantastic to be able to put my own slant on things.
Absolutely brilliant. So tell us a little bit about yourself. The listeners that may not know you, I know you've spoke to loads of different advisors in the industry. You've done loads of stuff over the last couple of years. You've been with L&G, but tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yep. So my name's Georgia Perkins. I'm one of the market development managers at Legal and General. My role is really to help kind of grow the market, look for those different trending topics, the themes, and just try and think of innovative ways to help advisors do their job to the best of their ability, basically. So we'll always keep and try and find new ways of doing that. One of those being stepping into the podcast world for myself.
Brilliant.
So, yeah.
Such a rewarding role. The market development team that we've got is almost, I wouldn't say a hidden gem, but it's a gem that we've got at our disposal from Legal and General to really help advisors do what they do best. And that's making sure that clients are living their best life from a financial perspective, whether it's we're looking at annuities and retail retirement, or if we're looking with regards to protecting themselves and making sure they've got a financial plan in place that they can kick the tyres on and is robust should any things, poor things happen in life and all that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you should follow us around. You're like the cheerleader for our team already. I love it.
That's what Vicky would say.
Yeah, it's what Vicky would say.
Yeah.
No, it is fantastic. And I've got to admit, this is my favourite job I've ever had. I love it. I do get up in the morning really excited to work. So, and that is supported by what L&G want to do and make that impact with advisors and help them to the best of their ability. So hopefully long may that continue.
Yeah, too right. Okay. Well, let's take it back a little bit then. You've been with Legal and General, I think, nearly 2 years now.
Yeah.
And tell us about how you ended up where you are, how you came into the industry. I know you've got a family connection with the industry as well.
I do a little bit, yeah. So I had finished my literature degree, which was very much not knowing what I wanted to be as I grew up. My dad is a financial advisor. He has his own business, but he is now slowly retiring out of the space. But he was very much a champion for female advisors. He did say, there aren't many of them. I'm glad to say that's improving. So that's the main thing. But he really wanted me to kind of step into financial services. He saw it as a fantastic industry to be a part of and to really make a difference in as well. And it just so happened that where I lived locally, there was another provider, a protection provider, which I started off working in servicing, moving up to underwriting, which was really interesting, and then kind of stepped into the dark side of sales and not really looked back, to be honest. But I was in a really fortunate position that I also had a friend, Hazel, your co-host time gone by, who also championed me to really step up into the market development role. So she knew so much about it. She knew me and really kind of bringing my skills into this area. So I've not looked back since, really.
Yeah, that's absolutely great.
But yeah, I love it. I think you probably can tell that I really do love the role. I think it's a fantastic company to work for as well.
I think that's 80% of the way if you love what you're doing and you're passionate about it, which a lot of our listeners are, a lot of advisors out there are passionate about what they do, aren't they? Making sure they're getting the right outcomes for their customers and that type of thing. So,
I think they have to be. I think that, with the regulation, all of the hard work that goes in the background, that is, outside of the client conversation, you do have to be passionate about it. And you do see a massive difference between those that are passionate and those that maybe, like my dad, will get into that point of retirement and ready to kind of pass on the reins. That it is a way of life, I think, being a financial advisor as well.
Hey, thanks for coming over and checking out the LNG Just Covered podcast. If you like what you hear, please click on the link in the show notes where you can see other things that we do, like previous episodes, the Advisor Academy, which is new for 2026, and I'm sure you'll find what you like there. So please check it out. You've seen that obviously growing up with your dad being an IFA, and so what impact do you think that's had on you, and how has that helped you, do you think, in this role coming into working from L&G?
I think it's just kind of created a bit of a passion of not necessarily looking at things from that cover point of view. So not judging financial services in a way that many people might, where it could be seen as maybe boring or a bit too money orientated, or you have to be very good at math to do these sort of things. At the end of the day, everything behind financial services is human related. And I think that's where I get so passionate about it, with my background in sort of literature and talking about those sort of things and different themes within and analysing a book is all about the storytelling of people. And that's ultimately all that we want to do with our clients. We want to help them tell their life story and give them that financial backing to be able to do it and the confidence to do it. So maybe that's where I kind of get a bit more passionate about it, really.
Definitely. And the storytelling piece, I think we will major on that and lean into that more in 2026. We've done that a bit so far. I think the podcast, nearly going 3 years now, I think. And we will definitely move into that as a focus for 2026. A little birdie tells me as well, weren't you an award winner? Was that this year?
Oh, yes. Oh, it's a bit embarrassing to say, but yeah. Very, very proud of myself. Yes, I did win the Women in Protection Woman of the Year Intermediary Support this past year, which was a massive surprise on the night. So if anybody was watching me, I gave myself whiplash sort of spinning around, being very happy about it. But, awards and things like that, I think it's really good to be able to support everybody doing a really good job, but also kind of women, and really elevate the different stories and people in the different roles that you don't necessarily see every day as well. So your underwriters, claims, sort of back office in terms of that servicing side. So, I mean, I've always loved going to the awards. They're great evenings, but to win it was kind of like the cherry on top. I was not expecting it.
Yeah, well done. That's
Thank
absolutely
you.
Amazing. And I wasn't actually there that night. It would be lovely to have seen your face when they announced it. Because, it'd been absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So well done. That was
Thank
amazing.
you.
So in terms of where you are now and the MDM role that you've got, and you're going out there and you're seeing, thousands of advisors, whether it be online, whether it be face to face, doing a lot of mileage and all that type of thing, including today, filming today down here in Bristol. So what do you think are probably the key? Thinking of 2025 as we go into 2026, what do you think are some of the key themes that have been coming out, both in terms of what advisors are requiring for support, but also what you think will sort of help them moving through to 2026?
Yeah, so I think as an MDM team, we've identified two really key themes that we know that we're going to be looking at extensively next year and supporting advisors with. I would also say there's an additional theme as well. So the kind of first two themes are around legacy and also income, with many of the changes in this sort of instability of knowing what's going on most of the time. That's really an area that a lot of advisors are going to have to upskill themselves in, certainly with things like the IHT changes. That's looking at maybe people wanting to understand, do I want to leave a legacy earlier rather than later as well? Are we gifting earlier? Are we not? How does that affect our IHT liability? How does that even affect our retirement planning? So I think that's really becoming the biggest trend. Okay. Income as well is making sure that our clients get to where they want to be at that point in their life. So ensuring that we're protecting that at all stages, and that will look different to different clients as well. So we know they're kind of two really key themes, but I would also say amongst that is trying to get advisors to help bridge that confidence gap with our clients. Confidence with themselves, but also confidence with their customers, because it is an ever-changing world at the moment in terms of those sorts of changes. So how can we give them the insights, the tools, and the confidence to have those conversations with the knowledge, or at least knowing that they can go to someone to get that additional knowledge is going to be vital. So as an MDM team, we're focusing on those two key themes, but bridging that confidence, that behavioural gap behind it all to help advisors land that conversation. Over and above all of that, though, I think we really want to ensure that we're turning knowledge into action. It's not just about delivering content and, advisors getting CPD and things like that. how can we make that knowledge something that they can take away and action within their everyday life? It's not then forgotten. And that's really, as a team, where we're trying to make that difference of really landing that actionable content for them and knowledge and insight.
Brilliant. It's stirring up the desire to go out there and do something about it. It's not the, so what, I'm not going to do something about it. I'm going to take it out there. I'm going to really put it into action. And to coin a phrase from one of our podcast guests that came earlier this year, we'll talk about it in a moment, it was that fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, isn't it? And ensuring that advisors are putting them perhaps outside their comfort zone, but the more they do it, they're more of a blueprint for success, the more they will be successful because they're doing it. It's habitual. It's part of the things they do every day. And it's great to see that you're out there and you're trying to influence that with regards to the MDM team and all the work that you're doing. Also, as well, you've had a bit of a change this year within the MDM team, haven't you? You've had a change in terms of couple of new personnel, but also on the back of how you deliver things. So I'm thinking of the how and the content and what you do. So perhaps are you allowed to elaborate a bit on that? Because you've got some really exciting content that's come out only recently.
Super excited. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for kind of referencing it. So as a team, we are a relatively new kind of team together, the three of us. We've got my colleague Dave Butler, who's been at Legal & General a little bit longer than me. He's coming up to 3 years. And we've also welcomed Jordan Clark into the team. And she brings a very different background to what me and Dave have as well. So she's worked as an advisor. She's helped train advisors in an L&D role. So as a sort of three, we feel really well equipped to be able to tackle all the different challenges that advisors kind of come up against. But with that thinking, we really have helped try and tap into a different market. So I believe you're maybe referencing our Advisor Academy and the different content that we're bringing in there.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we know how busy our advisors' days are. We know that things can change very quickly. They have to be flexible at the end of the day. And I've seen that with how my dad's worked. I mean, he always brought his work with him on holiday, so to speak. So I understand you can't turn off. So what we've tried to do is make sure that all of our content that we deliver and that additional learning is available all the time. And that's with our on-demand Advisor Academy. So really unique in the industry, over 9 hours of kind of CPD-able content, but with that angle of how do you turn this knowledge into action? So that's really there to help support that as well. And that has been game-changing in our approach to delivering content. We've seen fantastic figures already in the space of 2 and a bit months of launching, which has sort of blown us out the water, really.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before. We're just so excited about how we deliver that. I mean, in terms of snippets, just thinking about how we develop things, shorter clips, if you like, and hopefully listeners and stuff may have actually heard or even seen some of these clips and then delved into the wider podcast, the full duration, if you like, the one we're listening to now, or they're listening to now. So it's exciting times in terms of what's coming, isn't it? And that through that journey, I suppose, with the team and the wider distribution team for L&G.
Yeah, and that's just given us a passion to take it further. So definitely, I mean, there's the traditional approach of a webinar, but being available in a more innovative way. But certainly when we're talking about the podcast, we want those small bite-sized pieces because that's going to fit around what an advisor needs. It also means that we can start utilising this podcast even more than what we have done, which is really exciting, making it that bite-sized kind of learning, sort of TikTok style without being on TikTok and losing hours of our lives to
No
that.
dancing.
No dancing. Yeah, there will be no dancing from me on this podcast. But I think that's the key thing is, even the advisor community is changing and what that looks like. And we need to evolve with that and the different learning styles as well. And that's really what we're passionate about, to be at the forefront of doing that.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk about 2006 a bit later on in the podcast. So let's still think about 2025 and looking back at some of those episodes we've done. I think we've done 11, 12, usually do one a month. Have you had a look? I presume you have. You obviously have had a look because we've talked about it. But are there any key areas, any key particular episodes or anything that's resonated with you when you've been viewing it, or any particular advisors that have come on?
Yeah, so I mean, the episodes that kind of really resonate the most with me is learning where an advisor's kind of come from. So how they've almost ended up getting to where they are. And it's really interesting that is the storytelling piece. They've usually been triggered into this industry by a particular something that's maybe kind of looked at that. I mean, one that I use a lot, which I'm trying to think if it was definitely this past year, but it was the business protection one with Nathan Ansell, which really, I use that a lot with a lot of my training and advisors, because I'm also very, very aware that I'm not an advisor. I get the understanding on what the stumbling blocks are, the barriers, what goes well from talking to advisors.
And I think that's key. That is so key, isn't it? Because we can stand up and we can say, oh, look, do this, do that. We're not practicing advisors at the moment. And that's the huge benefit of your job, isn't it? Because you're taking that insight, you're gathering it, and then you can deliver it back. So you get that trust with advisors that are out there at the moment.
And I'm very, very nosy. So I will most definitely be asking those probing questions to dive a bit deeper. But I think it's great to be able to have that peer-to-peer conversation. It's not just coming from us. We're learning it from advisors, and advisors are talking directly to other advisors. And that was definitely one probably more niche topic of how he got into business protection. But that for me was probably going to be the most useful to an advisor that's maybe wanting to get into that area. They might have done all the training and got all the knowledge on how you set things up and different tax treatments. But until you go and have those conversations with clients, it can be very hard to embed that knowledge. And a lot of advisors don't know where to get started.
They don't. They think
they don't know.
Business protection, sort of the world of that is perhaps be scary because they haven't seen, they don't know exactly what it is. They're not quite sure how they deal with the clients. They may think it's too technical or whatever. But that's all about how we simplify it here at L&G, isn't it? In terms of allowing advisors to get into that and actually just get started and get some confidence with it.
Thanks so much for joining us today on the L&G Just Covered podcast. If we've piqued your interest with our Advisor Academy, new to 2026, then please do just click the link in the show notes below. You can then catch up on all of our on-demand, flexible 9 hours worth of content for you as an advisor. And also you will be able to catch up on all previous Just Covered podcast episodes as well. So if you want to watch that at 1 a.m. in the morning, go and click it below as well. Thank you. Exactly.
So that, absolutely great. Yeah, the Nathan one was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I
particularly loved that one. And it was just some of the other ones we've got as well. What we've tried to do in 2025 is broaden some of the content, if you like, in terms of the different subject matter. So we've come out into later life lending, as you know. We've done the retirement piece and all that type of stuff. Was there anything else in particular that resonated with you, or any other opinions, if you like, with regards to linking that going forward?
Yeah, so I think kind of for me, one of my favourite podcast episodes so far has been with Andrew Jenkins. Now, I can say that because I don't watch Traitors.
Neither do
either.
I. Well, I was just starstruck anyway.
Starstruck, yeah, exactly. But what I absolutely love that he did was kind of taking things from his own personal life and how that influences your professional life and what you do for work. Because I'm a very big believer in really championing the different personalities that advisors have. It's that kind of old traditional mindset of you buy from kind of people, even though we're obviously trying to educate and take our clients on that storytelling journey of why we need to talk about these things. But each advisor has their own personality. They have their way of approaching things. And I think that is something to celebrate and champion. And I think what he was also trying to highlight was that there's a growth mindset there, but also how things that happen in your personal life really do change how you approach things. For me, particularly, checking in with people and not just assuming that they're okay because maybe you would be okay over a certain situation in that moment. So for me, what I took from that was a lot of my friends are having babies at the moment, and I don't have any clue about that. I wouldn't know how that would affect you mentally in that moment. But I really take ownership to listen to what they're all saying. And then someone outside of that group, I'll go and check in on my friend because I've learned that from someone else. I might not have that personal experience from it, but I can take a hearing about that and the mental health side of things to really kind of affect how I talk to everybody else and just learn from it.
It really resonated with me as well. And the way he talked about dealing with grief. And when he talked about grief, it was about, it doesn't have to lose someone. I think he said, you don't have to lose someone in order to grieve. I think he'd gone to see a counsellor or something. And it was just change. So you're dealing with, you might be going to a new job, or you might have just a change in your situation. Something might happen with which you're sort of in, I suppose, a grieving situation because it might be subconscious because you've come from a different field, if you like. But trying to approach that, like you say, with that growth mindset, leaning into it and being confident in yourself that things will be all right because you're demonstrating the right behaviours. He talked about filling his cup as well, not having an empty cup, having time for himself, making sure that he can invest in himself, because I don't think he recognised that in his past. And another, you said it already, around life affecting you and stuff as well. One particular thing that he had, which I think was the catalyst, was that tragic accident that he had. Where he came out of that and he basically told the consultant that they said he wasn't going to walk out of there, and he said, "Well, yes, I am."
Yeah.
I mean, what an element of self-belief there. And anyone that wants to listen and hear about that and hear more about Andrew should definitely listen to that podcast that we had this year, because it was absolutely great.
Yeah, and what I took from that was that you don't know how you're going to react as an individual until you're faced with these moments, and you can learn so much from that in that moment. So him knowing, he now knows, he can face anything because of that, and that kind of growth mindset that he highlighted. It was really inspirational to see, and I think that probably leans, I mean, you're probably picking up on the fact that I can take anything from anything, even not kind of work related at all. I will always keep trying to learn, and I think we need to bear that in mind with a lot of our advisors that we talk to, is they have to continuously be learning, because things are changing all the time, every moment, and they are being pulled in so many different directions. So if we can have these conversations that helps them maybe then approach a client that is going through grief, and like you said, it doesn't have to be grief through losing someone. It can be grief of how your life just looks very, very different. Things like divorce or, leaving a job. They are really big life moments that we really try and take into account when we're talking to advisors. And I know you mentioned before and how we think of what we're looking at into 2026. That is a really key change for us as an MDM team, is that all of our focus when we're talking about these sort of themes is we're talking about it from the different life moments of a client, that case study angle, to make it more realistic, because that's actually how you apply the knowledge for an advisor in their conversations.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of people out there have, tendencies to maybe have imposter syndrome, stuff like that, when they go into different jobs, when they're trying to do different things. And it's really, really important for us to help with that, because I think everyone has, to a certain degree, has got it, haven't they? And I certainly think that podcast, for going back to the Andrew Jenkins podcast there, is that he really helps and really fronts it up, particularly with his background. He talks about toxic masculinity as well. And I can see, I've come from sort of a council house background and stuff like that as well. And I can sort of really relate to that. And I'm sure a lot of people can, in terms of being able to be aware of that and trying to change yourself to help yourself grow going forward. So it was absolutely brilliant for him to recognise that and then use what he's done as a platform to help people going forward, because unfortunately, too many males are choosing to press the exit button too early in life. And if at all, they shouldn't be doing it at all, as we know. Then they shouldn't be doing it. And hopefully we can help more and more with the actual podcast and also the journey that Andrew is on. So do you want to take it back just again? We were talking about grief, and we talk about change, and we talk about loss. Another podcast from last year, the Rian Manning's podcast from Tuish. I'm sure you remember that one. Yeah, very poignant.
Very emotional.
But a real positive thing has come out of it because of the work and the other types of things that Rian has been involved with.
Yeah, and that is what I really do applaud, is people having those really tricky conversations, especially when it's so personal to them. So I found her awe-inspiring, actually, to be able to open up in that way. And certainly, I mean, I did also see her interview with Prince William as well. And it just goes to show that these are real human moments that resonate with so many people. It doesn't matter your background, your personal circumstances. It is that loss that you have to deal with. And we do see that in protection and financial services, probably more so than ever. But I also know that can be a really tricky conversation for financial advisors to start talking about, because you don't want to re-trauma somebody when they're grieving, but you do need to bring out that real life scenario. What are the financial implications to loss, and having that pragmatic approach to it, because actually that can be incredibly helpful for a lot of people, even if it's not necessarily the conversation you think they're going to want to have. And anyone can be a worry.
Yeah, anyone can be vulnerable, can't they?
Yes,
because we don't want to label people, but people have vulnerable circumstances, and that's exactly what we got from, I think, another one from last year from Robin Melly, who said that. He talked about the Consumer Duty Alliance and the vulnerability checklist and all that. He talked about people going through vulnerable circumstances, and that's exactly what Rian has gone through and lived through, the loss of a child and the subsequent very swift loss of her husband. Absolutely tragic.
And I think that's the thing is, a lot of people hide their vulnerabilities, and actually no more so than men. They do hide that vulnerability because we're still in that era where it's difficult to show that as a vulnerability. It can seem still like a weakness to do that. I know for myself, I still struggle sometimes to show vulnerability, certainly within the workplace as well as a
But
female.
what can it do for trust if you do?
Exactly. If you can
It's so strong.
resonate and you can show that, and it's a human level, it's connecting on that human level. And I think that's what we're trying to put it back into advisors and that conversation. It's the one thing that I know my dad, when he says that he's retiring, the bit he's going to miss is sitting down and chatting to his clients. He's had them for many years. He's gone through so many different areas with them. They're almost friends with a slight professional edge to it as well. But it's understanding their vulnerabilities. And he's very much of that kind of mindset. He never wants us to worry about anything. He wants us to make sure we're always open about talking about things. And he never wants a client to leave a meeting having not felt comfortable enough to talk about something that's weighing on them.
And connecting on that level, you get that warm feeling, don't you, as you connect with clients? You build those relationships over time, and that's exactly what he's got. And what a lot of, or most of our listeners, I believe, will have with their client bases, and with those new people into the industry that are coming in, and that might be another episode. Them building those relationships over time, in line with some of the stuff we can do. So just thinking about maybe one more of our episodes from last year. One you'll know very well. One of the the guests you'll know particularly well in Vicky Jeffries was when we have Steph Sharman from Amy on, and we had Vicky Jeffries, who's obviously our market development director.
Yeah, my boss. So thanks, Vicky, for putting me forward to the podcast. It was a really fantastic interview actually to sort of see that, because as you know, we also sponsor the Amy Viewpoint Research. So we've worked closely with Steph Sharman as well, and it's been fantastic to sort of understand and get a bit of perspective around not just the advisor community, which we speak to on a daily basis, but also the provider perspective and the client perspective at the end of the day. So it's fantastic research where we can get that trifecta of opinion and really kind of break down what we can perceive as a misalignment within the industry. There's actually one session that I use quite a lot with my advisors is this perception versus perspective. It's a bit of a CIA trick, that spy trick. I'm sure you've seen the video. But as an industry, when we've been working in it, sometimes a lot of experience can mean that you can have a perspective on that industry or how that conversation is going to go or what you think is going to be important to your client, built up over many years of experience, but that's still from your perception. How do we kind of eliminate that and not kind of fall into that judgment kind of bucket there, where actually that client could be very, very different. Even if they look the same on paper, they're still an individual. They have different goals. They have different life experiences. How can we bring that out? So having research that really helps break down barriers that maybe we thought as providers are there, advisors think are there, has been fantastic. And we really do use that a lot, actually, with a lot of our training sessions.
Yeah, and any advisors that are wanting to know about the great work that Amy do, how they support the advisor cohort, how they champion on behalf of them, both from a professional point of view, but also from a customer outcome point of view, people should be watching that podcast because it's absolutely fantastic. And Steph's doing some great work there. Really and Vicky being a member of it as well, on the back of the recent, I think the latest report came out probably about 4 weeks ago, I think now at the time of filming. And I think your team are going to be taking that forward and taking that latest research just around, and some of the things to coin some of those phrases and some of those stats that we got out. Customers, the amount of advisors that are recommending protection, talking about protection, maybe not so many customers remembering it. What can we do about that going forward? That type of thing is going to be crucial to your thinking and the output from your team going forward, won't it? Yeah,
really, really key. And we still see a lot of the objections kind of coming in that we can now disprove as well. So price and value being one of them. A lot of advisors will think that certainly maybe those more in the wealth space that are kind of coming into protection because of the changes with IHT, this is becoming more topical for maybe their wealth clients more so. But this idea that maybe price could be a barrier. So only a barrier if the client doesn't understand the true value of having it. So I think that research is being able to help advisors kind of shift their mindset of what they already knew and actually what the status quo is right now. Really, really key. And Vicky's such a massive champion of the Amy kind of viewpoint research and also just Amy in general. So it's been fantastic to work closely with them. My colleague Dave Butler's been leading on that. So he's a real true champion of it as well.
Working closely with him. That's a nice segue, I suppose, into 2026 and the outlook, because obviously with some of the changes we've got, the IHT thing, I suppose, looking at that, there's an obvious protection opportunity. That's only one way to look at that. As in within L&G Retail, as we know, we also have our later life lending team. We have our retirement team where we've got, annuities, types and products and that type of thing that can be looked at. Another way of mitigating those types of liabilities and looking at those needs, I suppose, from a wholesome perspective to make sure that we're aligning the customer's financial plan. And to coin a phrase from Robin, actually again, Robin Melly again earlier on, it's around making sure that you're looking at the plan for clients and you're doing that. And then the financial advice piece is just part of it. That's part of the cog in that wheel, if you like. So certainly into next year, because some of the things you might know, being within the team and stuff, are there any other thoughts you've got around how you see the journey for next year and beyond?
Yeah, so we're taking a really big holistic approach. So all those areas that you mentioned, for sure, it's giving the advisors more in their toolkit to have the confidence to talk about them. And I think with the changing environment economically, like we're seeing that a lot, especially with clients getting into that kind of retirement space. What they maybe have planned the whole way along, it's maybe looking a bit different. So looking at all the different assets they have in place, the different solutions, upskilling advisors to have the confidence to talk about those different solutions, like also guaranteed income, annuities, trending so much at the moment, because actually that can be a really positive mindset for clients, that they would feel happier with a guaranteed income rather than maybe the more traditional approach of kind of just draw down in the past. So we're exploring those themes, the mindset as well behind moving from that kind of accumulation stage where you're still working, moving into that retirement era, what we kind of like to call the fragile decade. It is changing so much at the moment. So a lot of the conversations we have are around that holistic approach, and also focusing mostly on your client's goals, because those goals might have shifted now.
Totally.
They might look very, very different than they did even a year ago.
And aligning those client priorities as well. What's more important to them now may not have been important a year, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I always do talk about actually is, trying to get your clients to write them down, because it makes a massive, I think that you've probably heard me talk about this before, but I actually heard it at a roadshow from an advisor where there was a Harvard class many, many years ago, bit of research. They asked the Harvard class, what do you want to be when you grow up? A third of them were like, well, let me just get through university first, please. Let me just sort of focus on the here and now. The middle third, they knew where they wanted to go. They maybe had that idea of the job role, what ideal would look like, but not necessarily too much vision of how to get there. And then that final third, they wrote it down. They had a very clear vision. They were like, yep, we're going to be doing this. I'm going to be earning that. And when they revisited that class sort of like 10 plus years later, I think it's probably no surprise that those that had hit their goals and were also earning the most money were the ones that wrote it down. And I think it's very key to make that part of your process as an advisor, because those goals shift. They change, they evolve. Certainly with the IHT changes, we're seeing many clients now thinking, well, actually, maybe I will start gifting sooner rather than later. Maybe I wasn't going to do it, but actually there's many benefits to doing that now. My goals have changed. That's going to be a priority for me. And then after that, I just really want to be able to go traveling for 5 years afterwards and not worry about my income. A guaranteed income might help that. Yeah. Or they want to wind down. They don't want to fall off that cliff edge straight away into straight retirement. They're not ready to do that. That's too anxious of a thought. So it's making sure that we know what those goals are, the involvement of where that sits on the priority list, and then what are the solutions that are going to help build that holistic planning approach. So that's really where we're starting to see the big shift next year. And those themes of legacy and income fit very nicely into
where we are now, isn't it? In terms of when this podcast is bound to go out, we'll be in the new year, and obviously people will be in planning time. They'll be starting to execute those plans, and hopefully they've written down those things they're going to do. So great.
Well, we're planning now, so we're trying to get ahead of them, really, aren't we?
Exactly. So we're going
really
to be doing those things we've written down to make sure that we can do as well as we can into 2026 and beyond.
What I really want to do is kind of create a really good community amongst our guests, even though they're set, on different episodes. I really want them to be able to ask these questions and find out more about the next person that we talk to and see where we can learn from their different experiences. So what I want to do is for every guest, once they've finished our podcast, to leave a question for that following guest. You might have seen that on previous podcasts before. New host, so I will kick it off with the first question for our next guest. I really, really want to know that failure isn't, to me, an end point. It's actually a way of learning even more. It's a growth aspect there. So for our new guests coming up, what has happened in 2025 that maybe has gone wrong that you've learned from, and how did you learn from it, and how's that impacted moving into 2026?
What an amazing question, Georgia. I absolutely love it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Let's see what they say.
Well, I think this short period of time we've had to introduce you to the listeners on the podcast, Georgia, has been absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
so excited for where we're going to go, the things we're going to cover, the different types of things we're going to do. We're going to have specials this year. We're going to have other types of way of I suppose, getting content out, snippets and all that type of stuff, which we'll elaborate on going forward. But any of the listeners that are out there are either new to the Legal and General podcast, or even, the existing listeners and stuff, please do go to the L&G Advisor Centre homepage. So you can Google L&G Advisor Centre, and you can search for the Just Covered podcast. We've got between 20 and 30 episodes, I think, now. And going forward, we're going to have a lot more. But thank you so much. That's been amazing. And onwards and upwards for 2026.
I know. Thank you. So exciting.
Can't
wait for it.
And we hope to see you listening very, very soon.
Thank you.